Hello viewers, welcome to Raxio Hour. Today we take a moment to reflect on the inaugural National ICT Summit, an event organized by the Information Communication Technology Association of Uganda and the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Africa's digital transformation is being powered by scalable infrastructure that bridges gaps in connectivity and enhances economic competitiveness. Our General Manager, Godfrey Soramukoko, moderated a panel on building and interconnecting Africa's digital backbone for enhancing economic competitiveness through scalable infrastructure. This session brought together industry leaders and policymakers to chart a path forward in building a robust and interconnected digital ecosystem that drives economic growth and development across the continent. Key topics discussed included regulatory policies that enable interconnection for Africa's digital infrastructure, risks associated with not building an interconnected and scalable digital backbone, and the critical gaps hindering the scalability of Africa's digital infrastructure.
Patrick, I want you to give us, an idea or give us a talk about what the policies and regulatory frameworks present that are essential for facilitating the development of interconnection of Africa's digital infrastructure. And I need to hear you talk about the need, the policy, the need, and how it can be harmonized. Because, there is a need. We need policies that get the market to work properly, and then we need to understand the frameworks and also see how we harmonize and make sure that the policies are working for us. Yes, over to you, Patrick.
In terms of what is happening in Africa, I want to first break down into regions, and this is based on the guidance in digital transformation by the African Union strategy based on their approach to ensure that the whole continent is connected. That is digital strategy 2020-2030, where everyone is required to come up with a digital transformation roadmap. And Uganda has been a champion in that in our region. But getting back to the different regions, first starting with the North Africa, where Egypt came up with a digital transformation roadmap, and they have been able to lead the frameworks and the policies to ensure infrastructure for delivering services digitally reach to the greater underserved and unserved regions in the area. You realize that where we stand today, predominantly the urban areas have the privilege of having the fast, reliable, and affordable internet. But it's a different case when it goes to the underserved, especially the rural areas. And these frameworks and policies have been able to guide the process, including how the private sector can complement the effort of government across. Getting to West Africa, where there's Africa to Europe undersea cable and collaboration with the different partners. It has also Nigeria, Ghana have led in this and have been able to drive. Of course, the cost still remains high, but due to the guidance from African Union and other partner institutions, they have been able to drive this deeper and to a wider range. The biggest challenge today is still in Central Africa, where the environment, the terrain, the political situation may not have allowed even the policies to drive the reach of the infrastructure required to deliver the digital services. However, it doesn't mean that people are sitting back. I know my friend next to me here, James Perhanga, has been making great effort, meaning that now there are efforts being made, and this is all guided by the efforts of African Union and the different regional settings like ECOWAS that has made it easy for them to go into that area. South Africa, which I would say has been the biggest in driving this initiative, it's only that block of South Africa. But if you look at the neighboring countries, Lesotho, Swaziland, and Namibia, they're still on the lower side, and that means there's still a lot of work to do, but the frameworks are helping in guiding the process. Now, coming back home to East Africa, where Uganda is, Uganda's position alone gives it the advantage. Of course, for a very long time, most of the key players were in South Africa, but of course, Nairobi or Kenya has been able to drive them closer, and now it is Uganda's time.
The ability to cross borders allows us to do things at a larger scale. It opens up business cases for things like cloud services and data centers that might not have been possible before. It allows us to attract investment for things like that. There's a whole variety of different ways that interconnecting countries across borders and expanding the scale of our addressable market can drive economic growth.
If you look at most global markets today, it's about population, it's about volumes, it's about what you can get out of those populations. If you look at China, if you look at India, if you look at the USA, and most markets, what's your population? How are we able to monetize that population by connecting them and getting the value? That's what the digital era is all about. So Africa has 1 billion people. So if we can actually first, out of those 1 billion people, create content for that billion, store it, make sure that it's local, make sure that we can actually move that content around within the ecosystem, then the game changes. Secondly, the old story of literacy has changed because you can communicate in your language. You still have volumes. We've seen the social media messages. We've seen everybody now. So the certain barriers that we used to build around access to the internet have gone. So what else do we have as a continent to do apart from monetize the 1 billion people that we have? And we should monetize that within the continent, also within the countries. So it's pointless, we're 48 million people, it's pointless us having a wonderful connection to the region when we don't have our 48 million connected within the country. So local infrastructure is key, but you see, it feeds off each other. What's the price of not doing that? I think the price of not doing that is very clear, that first and foremost, we have an opportunity to own that next stage. If we don't do it, somebody else is going to come and do it for us and also earn from it.
What we're seeing as a trend is that some of the big private players are starting to think regionally. They're starting to think about connecting Africa rather than connecting just the home countries that they're established in. I guess this is something that Liquid started a long time ago with the Cape Town to Cairo cable connection initiative. And then we saw MTN Global Connect, which later became Biobab, trying to build a trans-African network instead, which was like east to west. Recently, Airtel has announced that they're also going to kind of fill in those kind of gaps. We also are aware of like Paratus, who's coming from, Namibia to cover the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. So we're starting to see bigger plays from traditionally, what you'd say, telcos that were based in given markets. This doesn't mean that the smaller players like ourselves are dozing anyway. We're also thinking about how do we then participate at this level. So small players like Rock, BCC, some of the Kenyan players are starting to look at their own ways that they can collaborate with players in the region. So Rock Telecom, for example, will cross-connect with an Access Kenya to be able to extend connectivity for its customers into Kenya. And the reverse is also true. The same thing you'll see happening in Rwanda with, say, Rock and the Trans-Africa kind of play. Because if I don't have the muscle to build a Pan-African network, how else can I participate in this playing field? Therefore, I have to establish partnerships or collaborations with similar players across borders and be able to extend my infrastructure into the next market.
As we continue this journey towards a digitally interconnected Africa, Raxio remains committed to supporting scalable infrastructure solutions that meet the demands of our ever-evolving economy. Thank you for joining us on Raxio Hour.